I'm Brian Grogan, Executive Director with North Carolina Rural Water Association. I've been with the association going on 14 years, been in the Executive Director position since 2021. There's approximately 2,000 community water systems in North Carolina, and the large majority, I think it's about 95% of those that are government-owned, municipal or county government, are members of North Carolina Rural Water Association, and that's upwards of 700. I think we're getting close to 700 active members in our association today. Just in general, I think it's about 93–94% of the water systems, community water systems in North Carolina serve populations of 10,000 or less. And then upwards of, I think, about 85% or less than 1,000, I believe. So you have a lot of smaller systems that lack that economy of scale, but they still have to meet all the regulations that larger systems do. A lot of times in these very small systems, you have one person that's the operator for the water and wastewater systems, and they may be tasked with handling most everything else that goes on. You know, you can go by any given time, they're out mowing the cemetery or hanging Christmas lights. So they're tasked with doing everything. They can't focus all of their time and effort just on the water or wastewater system, which is really needed. There's so much going on. So it can be difficult for them to keep up with all the changes in regulations, changes in technology. And that's where we come in. We try to assist them with that, make sure they're aware of any upcoming changes and help lead them through that process.
Been with the town of Maysville for now about 7 years. Kind of came into the role, was on the council, believe it or not. I was on the other side of the table as a board member. And what I saw the challenges of what we see in the rural North Carolina with leadership coming into town. You know, and I say it lightly, but padding their resumes and moving on to the bigger cities. And we never had any stability in town in that aspect of management wise, and just had a notion and a niche to apply for the job, and that's how it all started. I don't say first name and last name basis. We know by nicknames, you know what I mean? So we're definitely a tight-knit community.
My name is Al Leonard, and I'm town manager of Tabor City. That's my full-time job. I work part-time for 4 other smaller municipalities here in Columbus County: Fairbluff, the town of Boardman, the town of Cerro Gordo, and the town of Brunswick. And I'm also the licensed waterworks operator for Fairbluff and the town of Brunswick. What it means is every morning I have to go up and travel to the town of Brunswick, and we drive around every morning and check the wells, check chlorine residuals, how much they pumped in the last 24 hours. And then at night I go over to Fairbluff and do the same thing. Make sure that they take all their samples that have to be delivered to the lab every month. And I also do all the paperwork that we turn into the state for the water system.
So I started here as the town administrator and finance officer on May the 18th of last year, which was 2022. And it's been a whirlwind. I've gotten a lot of learning experience under my belt already, specifically in the utilities side. Wastewater, water systems, that's where we've really been baptized by fire. I really enjoy what I do. I have an MPA with a concentration in business and government, and it's always something to keep you busy here. Bladenboro is a great town. It's got a lot of issues, but we're really trying to solve a lot of those issues. We've used a lot of grant funds, lots of ARPA dollars have been employed in the town, and it's a work in progress.
I actually manage a public water utility in Carteret County, West Carteret Water Corporation. I've been there 37 years. I started volunteering with North Carolina Rural Water in the mid-90s, and I've been on the board since 2011, and I'm currently the president of the board of directors. One thing that we're facing now is, more than anything else, is an employment. I don't call it a crisis. We've had a job opening available for over a year. Haven't been able to fill it. As people are retiring and they are leaving, we don't have new people that are picking up the gambit and running with it. We're having a difficult time getting new hires. So I think I would say, most water systems will tell you that their biggest challenge is absolutely employment right now.
2 main things that we really struggle with. One being finding workers, and that is a nationwide problem right now. I'd say that we have a lot more disadvantages than advantages for being a small town. The disadvantages simply being is that we're understaffed. So some paperwork that needs to be turned in, permits, reports, things like that, if we don't have someone to do that, then it automatically just falls back on me to do. So I'm not a utility type of gal. So I have to reach out to the resources that we have, mainly rural water, to help us figure out what needs to be done as far as getting the correct information conveyed to the state, because all these documents are incredibly important.
We're talking about rural North Carolina. My title is town manager today, but tomorrow it could be the dog catcher. It could be the pyrotechnics. You know what I mean? We do fireworks. I got my lights fireworks. It could be the sewer plant operator the next day. So we're talking about capacity. We just can't afford to hire those individuals here in town. So organizations like Rural Water play a major role, you know, in rural cities like mine. I mean, they can come in and help me with rate studies, you know, CCRs, water shortage reports that I just don't have that ability and time to do. But they do play a huge role in rural North Carolina.
They don't have the ability, the time, mainly, more than anything else. I'm not talking about intelligence here, I'm talking about time. They can't operate a water utility and do everything that needs to be done, even if it's a 2 or 3 manned facility. So I think that for us, we can come in, if we can spend a little bit of time with them, then we can get the information that we need to help push forward with some applications to help them through getting through that particular process for their funding needs.
Here in Tabor City, we've got roughly 30 employees, and that's police department, fire department, public works department, administration. In the other towns, there's generally much smaller, about I'd say 3 to 5 people in each town that I know.
There are so many rural water systems that cannot afford an engineer. They cannot afford to invest in the dollars that it takes to hire someone to come in to do a rate analysis or to help them with a wellhead protection plan. If they're a member, those are provided to them free of cost. In addition to that, they can't always afford to send somebody off to a school for a long period of time. So we help with that training. That comes at a minimal cost to do that. Without training our staff and without educating them, we don't really have the people on the ground that we need to make sure that we have the safe resource that we need.
Right now, in the water and sewer industry, it's becoming much more complex, and you have to have a certain level of expertise. And of course, I guess if you're Charlotte or Winston-Salem, you've got a lot of expertise on your staff. In the very, very small communities, you don't. And so that becomes a challenge. You have to work with your engineers, you have to work with North Carolina Rural Water, and to try to fill that knowledge gap. And I think the other thing is, it seems like every time Congress meets or the General Assembly meets, the rules that we have to play by change. And just staying on top of the rule changes when you're out there in the field putting out fires every day, it's almost impossible. And we're very fortunate that North Carolina Rural Water has a presence, and they're monitoring the state and federal regulations for us and bringing to our attention any changes that come about. We couldn't do that by ourselves.
I tell folks, again, I'm from Maysville. I love Maysville. I got all these big ideas. I was taught a long time ago that love made the world go round, and I'm not a true believer of that anymore. I believe that money makes the world go round and love just greases the wheel. So my biggest thing is they're gonna need funding. I mean, just like us. I mean, like anything. Without the money, there's nothing we can do. You know, a lot of people don't like to hear that, but without funds, and I just keep saying that rural water would need those funds now and in the future.
Another disadvantage is just simply not having the resources here to be able to really serve to the fullest extent as far as, you know, water and wastewater issues. We would want to put all of our efforts toward solving our issues at our treatment plant and fixing our aging infrastructure. But just because we don't have the resources in a timely manner pushes things out for such a long time. we would love to have a fully brand new water line run through the entire town. But we know that that's not going to happen anytime soon, so we have to really talk to the experts. We talk to DEQ, Rural Water, to see how they can assist us in connecting with the right people to really manifest those resources.
We try to keep our rates as low as possible, and the challenge with keeping the rates low is that we can't pay the employees the way that we need to, we can't upgrade infrastructure the way that we need to, and that is a big part of it.
But it's tough, and again, that's a fine line between making it affordable for citizens and making sure they got quality drinking water. It's always going to be a challenge for rural North Carolina or rural towns to be competitive with cost, because you're talking about 450 households, which is going to cost the same. The pump, that warehouse sitting here is Jacksonville got 100,000 customers. Whatever it costs them to pump a gallon, it costs us to pump, but they got to be able to split that cost up with all those customers. Yep.
We believe that water is free. For whatever reason, we believe that water is free, and we believe that it's abundant and there is no end. And that is not the case. And if we continue to waste it, there's plenty of water on the planet, and we can treat it, but it comes at a cost. And so if we want to try to stay in an area where our water is reasonably priced, then we need to conserve the water that we have now.
We all take for granted going to the sink, turning on that handle, and the water comes right out. And we watch that water go down the drain and disappear. We all take that for granted, even myself. But there's a lot of dedicated people out there, a lot of camaraderie, and a lot of partnerships that make that water and sewer happen, every day. That happens a lot. The cooperation between systems happens a lot in rural areas.
Rural water, that collaboration was boots on the ground when we found out, that they had PFAS. They was able to navigate me into USDA grant that I didn't have a clue about. So those type of partnership with the North Carolina Collaboratory help us educate the folks on what PFAS was, things of that nature. And again, rural North Carolina needs those type of, collaborations and teams to help them out, because again, we don't have that capacity.
Honestly, I think I have met with every circuit rider that there has been in Eastern North Carolina for wastewater and water. They have helped us tremendously. They're one of my first calls whenever I have a vacancy, whenever I have an issue that is beyond me, that I don't understand, whenever there's a permit that needs to be renewed, whenever there's certain paperwork that needs to come in. I always reach out to Rural Water.
My hope for Rural Water is that we continue to be a service to the state of North Carolina, that we continue to recognize that water utilities and wastewater utilities provide a vital service, that we continue to recognize that they don't run by themselves, that we continue to recognize that the people that run those systems or that work those systems at all levels, from the top all the way to the bottom, they're essential.
It's still intriguing to me how we get water out of that aquifer up into that water tank through a pipe network into your sink. That's still very intriguing to me. And the fact that these little towns can do it with so much limited resources is a testament to the ingenuity and the hard work of the people that are doing it.
Yeah, I think it's just very important for rural water associations that they are that central voice for systems. So that, you're looking at the advocating for funding on behalf of water and wastewater systems across the state and across the country is very important. To be that central voice, to let folks know what's involved in operating water and wastewater systems, because a lot of people just take for granted you turn the spigot and you have clean, safe, reliable drinking water, and there's a lot that goes into that. So being that advocate to let the general public know the challenges of running water and wastewater systems is very important. And then being that central knowledge base where you can bring people together. We have a lot of networking events, our annual conference, and most states have that, as well as on the national level, bringing folks together where you can share your experiences and knowledge and help each other out through the challenges and the ever-changing regulations and landscape that the industry is dealing with.